Good evening. Hello Kimberly, welcome to Willie's Recovery Corner, podcast number 8 with Robert Campbell Coombes. I'll just give it another 20 or 30 seconds for let people filter in and for Robert to join, and then we'll get this podcast underway. Thank you for joining me here on Willie's Music and Podcast page. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is William Anderson. I'm in 18 months of my own personal recovery, and I run my own peer support group with over 900 members. This is also what I do. This is my public page where I do podcasts with different members of the public, because it's important to me that the voice, everybody's got a story to tell, everybody has got the voice of a lived experience, and it's important in my own personal recovery that I use that voice wisely. And part of that is giving other people an opportunity to come on and tell their stories and their remarkable survival stories, or different kinds of stories like you've seen yesterday with the army story with my friend John Cochrane. But I think that's Robert coming on now, and then we'll get this podcast number 8, with Scottish actor Robert Campbell Coombes. Show us you care, folks. Give us a share. Sharing is caring, after all. Robert will be joining us any second now. Hopefully anyway, but I have got the middle names technical issues, so we'll not count our chickens just yet. But fingers crossed, Robert will be on in any second. Is there anybody out there? See, we're all saying this is podcast number 8, because if it was podcast number 1, I would have been panicking right now. Not going to lie, the nerves are a wee bit dodgy, but we'll get there. Technical issues, I'm used to them. I'm getting used to them anyway. I'll try and add you, Robert. Robert's relatively new to Facebook, or virtually brand new, as our joint mutual friend. No answer from live video guest. There's no answer at your end, Robert, I'm afraid, mate. Don't worry. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I'm here, Robert's there. Yeah, you're there, Kerry, Robert's there, and I'm over here. But we can't seem to get that connection going yet, but we'll get there. Don't stress. So as I was just continuing, we'll just try away in the background, and then we'll see what we can do and figure out. We might need to cut it and start again, but that's okay. I'm sure all you lovely folk will come back and join this story, this podcast number 8 on Willie's Recovery Corner. So I'm trying to add you, Robert, but it's saying no answer. There we go. Wrote no answer. No. Fingers. It's adding you now, Robert. Looking a lot more hopeful this time. There we go. Hello there, Robert.
Hiya. Finally.
Oh, I was beginning to sweat a little bit there. I didn't think we were going to make it for a minute.
Or I was like, oh no.
I know. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Thank you very much for coming on to my music and podcast page and doing this for me. We're obviously here because you're a mutual friend, and I'm allowed to say her second name. She says, you're not allowed to say my name, just say my first name. I'm only the writer, but Mrs. Kerry Clifton. That's the person who's brought us together to do this podcast here this evening. So thank you very much for coming on. I understand this is your very first podcast, and I'm quite relatively new to it.
My first podcast I've done a Zoom interview, but my first podcast on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, so this is all new.
Oh well, there you go. I mean, I started my personal recovery 18 months ago, and up till a year ago, I never even heard of Zoom. And then it gave me the fear when people were saying to me, right, come to this Zoom meeting or come to that. I'm like, no, I can't work it. I'm too old for that. But here we are. Every day I've got 2 or 3 Zoom meetings now, but it's good. All good stuff. So, episode number 8, Robert Campbell Coombes. Can I just first of all say that's a lovely name. I like that name. It's a very film star name. You can see that up in lights in the Hollywood Hills one day. Robert Campbell Coombes. You know what I mean?
Well,
Just
here's hoping so. Thank you.
Never give up hope, mate. That's what we've all got hope in life.
Yes.
So could we go back to a bit about a lot about yourself, not just a bit. Your name's Robert Campbell Coombes. Could you tell us a bit more about yourself, where you were born and where you grew up, maybe? Your family?
Yeah, so I was born Robert Campbell, and it was in the sunny side of Glasgow and Pollock, and it was a council estate, and mum and dad, they worked as much as they could, supporting the family, and then my papa took ill, and we kind of were like swapping and changing. I think I lived in like 3 or 4 houses in the period that my papa was passing away and really ill, and then we resided in Cumbernauld. So it's me and my mum in Cumbernauld, and we are still from a council background. Like, mum's got a council house still.
So do you have any brothers or sisters or anything like that, Robert?
I do. I have an older sister, Sharon, and I have a younger sister, Margaret, who dabbled in acting herself. And mum and dad was like, "Oh, you're just following your brother's footsteps and all that." Like, kind of encouragement, but not encouragement, as if like get a real job.
Well, yeah, I've heard that said before about actors' life. It's always get a real job for the parents. I can understand that. So going back to your early memories of childhood, like 2, 3, 4 year old, what's your first memory you could sort of remember from back then, say?
We had a dog called Tina. I'm sure it was called Tina. It was a wee, I'm sure it was called that. Mum's probably going to go, no, it wasn't. But a really bouncy, happy dog, and that was my friend. And I didn't really like to. I had a few people that I lived in the block with, like the flats that we lived in.
Yeah.
But she was my friend. Like, I felt really different from other children when I was younger. I don't know why. I didn't feel as if they really understood me as a person. And that was probably, the dog was the happiest moment, yeah.
So Tina went everywhere with you?
Yeah, she burst my nose a few times as well. She liked to jump up and give me
what kind of dog was Tina? What kind of dog was
it? A boxer.
Oh, yeah. All right, yeah, that would be sore then, mate. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So when you were touched on there, what age were you when you first moved? That you can remember moving house? Were you young then as well?
When we started moving houses, I was probably around 5, 6. We started moving around, and I think.
And that was due to your dad's work, was it? That was due to dad's work.
No, actually, my dad ended up. My mum and dad's relationship was kind of on and off, and my dad ended up working abroad. Well, I say abroad, Dublin, for a long period of time. And we generally moved just due to my papa taking ill, to be honest. Yeah. And obviously, like, there's some good points and bad points to my childhood. Like,
of course, like everybody.
Yeah, and like with this film especially, like, that's why part of my childhood I'm really connected to in regards to the storyline that Kerry's put her heart and soul into. So, but yeah, we mainly moved just after my papa passed away. We moved to Cumbernauld, where my aunt was living. We moved into her house actually, and then she moved out. So yeah.
What can we just backtrack a little bit there? So when your dad was working away over in Ireland, what was that like? Did that just make the bond between your mother and your sisters even stronger than what it was? What was it like growing up with your dad being away for long periods of time?
I think for any family, I think everybody's family has many layers to it, and I think that having a dad that wasn't always there and present was difficult on a mum who was essentially a single parent. And we couldn't really go and visit my dad a lot. And my sister didn't actually live with us, my older sister. She actually lived with my nan. And I think that was to give her company due to the passing of my grandparent. And my little sister and that. I think my mum struggled a lot. I think she became quite lonely as a parent that was by herself. And she didn't really socialise a lot. Like, And
it's hard when
I
you've got
really
three
worried about my
children
mum
trying
when
to
I was
bring them
young.
up. So that is
Yeah,
very hard.
and there was a lot of worry. I don't know what. I think my mum's mental health kind of suffered a little bit, and I think that me and my little sister kind of seen that. We used to worry about her a lot if she would just disappear.
Yeah.
My mum would go to the shops and buy a lot of shopping unnecessarily,
Yeah.
and you get like 20 cartons of milk and you don't need it. But we always used to, if she didn't answer her phone or anything like that, we'd get really concerned that maybe she would do something to herself. I don't know why we
Yeah.
had thought. But yeah, I remember that was that took a toll on us as children, because I don't think children at that age should be really concerned about their mum's welfare.
So you can remember your mum being sad, but you didn't necessarily know why, but you had the feelings maybe because she was missing dad, and then because life was a harder struggle because you bring you up on her own at times. So it was
Yeah,
just a combination of all of that.
yeah, and I think like my mum and dad's relationship, they were always together, then not together, and together, then not together, and there was a lot of kind of arguing as well at some points in my childhood, like a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
And I think that took a toll on my sister and I. I think I grew up a little bit faster than I should have.
Yeah.
And I used to say to my little sister, I was like, life is a game, and we have to play the game, and we have to like move the chess pieces in the right way to make sure we get what we want, because it's not given to us in life.
Very true. What age were you then, Robert? Can I ask you?
Probably 11 at this time, 11 or 12.
That's a very deep thought for an 11-year-old kid, isn't it? Yeah. But
Well,
like you say, under certain circumstances, you are forced, unfortunately, to grow up a little quicker than the kids around you. So
yeah.
how was that going to school and that? Like, what age were you when your dad took ill?
My grandfather took ill.
Yeah, sorry, your grandfather.
He took ill when I was, I would say around the ages of 6, 7. And I think it was hard because I really, there's something I regret as a child, but I have to obviously let go of it. But I remember going to see my papa. He had a blastoma tumour and went blind. And they'd done a lot of operations on his head and shaved all his hair off, and it just wasn't, he was just a shell of himself. I remember going up to visit him, and I had it's quite a comical story essentially, but for me not. But I was pushing him on the wheelchair, and then I seen all the scars, and we were on a little ramp, and I'd let the actual like wheelchair go, and he started moving, and obviously he's blind, so he doesn't know where he's going, and I was like, oh, that's not my papa, because it didn't look like him. And he just kept going, so they had to chase the wheelchair.
Well, mate.
And I felt really bad, because even though he couldn't see, he could hear, and I always bet myself up about that. I was always like, oh, that was my last words I ever said to my papa, because I was never allowed to go back to the hospital.
But then you were only a child yourself, mate. You didn't know what was, you know what I mean? It's the mind of a child. So how was it when you were going to school with this going on in the background, and then your dad being away working and what have you? How was it building up friendships and that at school, in primary school, for example?
Primary school, I always primary school in Cumbernauld was probably the most difficult part of my childhood in terms of socialising. I think I became introvert, and I had a lot of mental health issues that weren't actually dealt with or seen to, and the teacher that I had at the time, who I'm not going to mention, but she was a bitch, an absolute. And she just seen me as lazy and seen me as difficult, and I'm severely dyslexic, so she used to ridicule me, make me stand up and read primary 4 books when I was in primary 7.
For example, did that teacher know any of your background at all? Did she know anything of your history? No, exactly. And then, so did you have anybody else to speak to about what was going on in your personal life, like friends or family members or anything like that at the time?
No, I wasn't very communicative with my family a lot. I would say my little sister's probably the person I was closest to. In terms of an adult to actually physically do anything for me would have been my little sister's actual primary teacher, who's I'll mention her because she was a light of my life. But her name it's Miss McCready, and then she married, and she married actually the guy from the ginger guy, Colin McCready from Taggart.
Oh, right.
So, the ginger guy in Taggart. So
Yeah.
she married him, but she was one of my mascots in primary school. She used to take me aside and she used to have long chats with me and build me up, and she was an amazing woman. To this day, she's
It's
still.
important to have somebody, even a school teacher, an amazing school teacher like Mrs. McCready, that they're just to listen to you, just for you to offload and maybe give you little bits of advice and what would help you through your personal situation at the time. Because when you're going through hard times as a child and you don't know how to express that, and there's nobody necessarily to express it to, it does make you more introverted. It does make you more withdrawn from people around you, whether that be at school or around your local area, even family members. And that's a dark, dark place to start to go into as a child, especially. So how did that progress with your mental health and that at that stage?
Actually, I developed a lot of like, as much as she was helping, I think I kind of, she gave me, she's the reason why I'm actually doing acting, to be honest, because I always loved the arts, and she really encouraged me to and do the talent contest at primary school, even though I had zero confidence. But she kind of brought that escapism for me out of me, and I was able to go into that escapism.
What was your first part? What was your first part at primary school then?
My first part, it was a Grease thing. That was high school, but I just done talent contests in primary school.
Yeah.
But high school, it was Grease. Yeah.
And I can only imagine your nerves would have been overflowing with your talent contest at primary school. But
yeah.
Can you still remember that buzz that you got after it for thinking, yes, I've done it?
Yeah, because I was severely bullied in primary school, and I was a wee skinny. I'm still a skinny thing, but I was a wee skinny thing. It was when everybody was chanting my name, and they wanted me to win. I came in second. I didn't win, but they were all like, "Oh, go up!" So I got to go up and perform again. But the second time performing, I went into the splits onto like two chairs, and I went into this.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the teacher actually had to come on stage and lift me off the chairs because I was stuck in the position. So it was, a few times, but
I've got the problems, Robert, at 50-year-old. When I get down, it's fine, but trying to get back up again is a nightmare. But you know what I mean. But I mean, I've got an excuse. I'm 50, mate. So that gave you your first sort of taste to being able to escape into a character role, if you want. And then from there on, is that what sparked your enthusiasm for finding out more about that type of thing?
Yeah, and it wasn't until high school when I had met a friend of mine, Nicola Peachy, and she was at a drama school. She was taking drama classes, and she asked me to come along, and that was for Vachi Theatre School.
Yes.
I joined them, and my mum and dad paid for my first semester, but they couldn't really afford it, and they weren't really understanding my life and what I wanted to pursue, to be honest. So
yeah, you could be your normal self there, I would imagine, the perceived you.
Yeah, 100%. And it was just being in a room full of people that was like me, and very creative and very outgoing and very bubbly and just carefree, and just expressed themselves in so many ways.
Yeah,
it was exciting for me. And when they stopped paying, I had spoken to the owner, Joyce, and I had said, "Is there any way I can still go, even though I'm not able to afford it?" She basically said yes. So I helped out at the school. I cleaned the floors. I helped out with organising, like setting up the table for when people were coming to pay their fees, and she allowed me from then on to actually still take classes.
That's amazing, because that's very unusual. That's not a normal way to pay for your school term, but thankfully Joyce let you do that, and thankfully she did. So you what was there a big massive difference, obviously, because you were able to be yourself when you went to, how do you pronounce it again, Vivace?
Vivace.
Sorry, I want to get it right. So how, when you went to the Vatry, the difference, it must have been like night and day compared to your normal school that you'd been at before, your bullying that you'd went through, not being able to communicate with anybody really, to being there and being able to use like the drama forms or the acting to get expressed how you felt at times as well. Did that allow you to open up at the teaching?
Yeah. So we done all different things. So we done like movement classes, and I really loved movement. I think movement for me back then was the biggest expression for me, because the words in the song allowed me to then embody how I feel.
Yeah.
And that slowly developed into acting, and then when we were playing certain parts, I was able to go deeper as a person and express the hurt and the anger and like even the good times, the laughter, everything. I was able to a full extent, and that release for me became addictive. So I was basically chasing that high of that addiction, of feeling amazing.
Because that's where you felt freest. That's where you could be 100% yourself with everybody in your surroundings, and you felt most comfortable. So that's understandable. So you from there, is that where you would get acting jobs from the school?
So they actually partnered up with a company that is still running. I think it's a charity organisation now, but it was called Glasgow Acting Academy. They had an acting agency attached to it, owned by Maureen Cairns, and she basically put me into the office and we had a chat, and then she represented me, and then I started getting put up for auditions for TV roles and things like that. And I'm so thankful for Maureen, because she also was a big for me, it's a big collaborative process, but she was definitely a major part of me really seeing from a film and TV point of view and what that can do for you in terms of an outlet. And she was a really big supporter of me, and and she really fought for me, because my first job was actually shooting The Fat, and it was a very small part. And it was just a day player. It was one line. It wasn't even, I don't think, credited. But obviously,
it would be a massive eye opener to you, but for the movie world and the camera, the acting world, etc.
Yeah, and obviously Ford and Greg and Karen Dunbar were all part of The Fat world, and then
I'd be starstruck, mate. I'd be starstruck. I wouldn't be able to speak.
It was an amazing experience, but when I started to actually absorb anything was the still game part. When I was young.
What age were you when you went to how did you feel when you heard about the still game part? You grew up watching still game as well.
Well, it was a bastard to get the part. I'm not gonna lie, because
was it?
So obviously Ford and that. I don't even think they were in the room. Was Ford and that in the room? No, I think Michael Hines, the director, he was a producer and director at the time, and he. I applied for the Trombola part. I auditioned for that. They went, no, he's not going to get that part. And then they went back, gave feedback to Maureen, my agent, and was like, he's struggling to read and he's stuttering and all that. Like, Maureen was like, look, just give him another role, let him audition. And Maureen really helped me and coached me. And I think actually Salters at the time, which was one of my drama teachers at Vivace, had actually helped me with the part. I learned more by, when I was younger anyway, audibly, like so from an audio perspective, rather than reading from a paper. So then I went to the room with the producers and at Comedy Unit, and basically done my part, and they had spoke to me and said, do it like this, do it like that, put a wee Eddie voice on and all that. And then I was like, right, cool. And then they went, oh, you've got the part, basically. And Maureen pure rooted for me. She was like, just give the boy a chance. Like,
everybody needs a Maureen in their life, you know what I mean? Because it must have been really hard in the acting world with dyslexia as well, trying to do the reading part or the writing part or whatever. So that's why you'd like the audio side of it. And
I think that's what knocked my nerves a lot of the time growing up, was because I always thought I wasn't smart enough or good enough or I wasn't capable, and everybody else just seemed to do it with ease. And when I was looking at a room or in an audition room, they already would be like all super confident and all that, and I was really.
I take it, Robert, you weren't diagnosed with dyslexia being at
school?
No,
not college. So when I was,
Yeah.
what, 17, I
And
got
it was
diagnosed.
too late, yeah, when it was, well, not too late, but you know what I mean, your childhood's been done, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a lot harder, like, because especially with that teacher that had a go at you in primary school all the time,
Rich.
surely God, she understood what was actually happening with you, although she still should have understood a lot more than what she did, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and that would have helped. But aye, so you went through the part and still game, and then did that sort of make any difference to how you felt about yourself personally, the more better roles you were getting, or the more experience you were gaining in the acting world, like
Uh,
confidence wise?
Me personally, confidence, yes.
Yeah,
Being in high school at the point in time when it aired, I remember it that we were just coming back from our summer holidays and going into school again, and the night
yeah,
before, I believe, and it was on. We had this little newspaper in Cumbernauld High, and the head teacher had actually posted about it, and it was actually, it became worse for me. I think for me personally, I was happier, but I noticed a change in people in the way they approached me, the way they dealt with me, and I think
would you be more standoffish, you mean, like,
no,
and
a bit
what do you
more
mean?
like fake rather than anything
Oh,
else.
oh, right, I see what you mean, yeah, yeah, you get that, aye, aye.
So I had a lot of people who actually bullied me, were like pretending to be my mates, and then
Yeah,
like, a lot of online hatred towards me at the same time. And people, I don't know if you remember Bebo. Do you remember Bebo? No,
people from, what was that from again, mate?
kind of like a Facebook, but it was back in the day. Um,
Oh, I do actually, yeah, back in the day, I know I'm old, but yeah, right, you just reminded me what people was there, yeah.
but people were making fake accounts of me and
Yeah,
horrible things about me, and that taught me a lot as well. But at the same time, it did make me become a wee bit more introvert in terms of who I trusted and who I spoke
of
to.
course it would, mate,
Uh,
yeah.
and I'm very thankful for the small knitted friends that I did have back then, and they were a great support to me, especially with like family issues and just my own dealings within
Yeah,
myself. I had a lot of patience for me, and to be honest, I'm so glad to have a lot of patience for me, because if I didn't have them, I probably would have deteriorated a lot quicker in terms of.
yes, of course.
Um, so yeah, they were a great support for me as well.
Yeah, we do need resilient adults dotted throughout our childhood. It does help, because that keeps us on the just about on the straight and narrow with our thought process and how we look at the world. And unfortunately, we go through harder times. If we've not got a resilient adult, that's when we lose track even further and go in deeper into, and sometimes don't return. So
Yeah,
anyway, yeah. So you were getting how long did we at school? Did you stay on to sixth year into 18-year-old, or did you get out at
no.
the first opportunity?
Yeah, it was actually very traumatic for me, and it was very violent in terms of the physical abuse that I endured from certain individuals. And I actually left before my standard grades, so I wasn't even.
And what was the general, what was not that there's ever any reason, but what was the general thing that you had thought, why were they picking on you, would you conceive to yourself anyway?
Um,
Because you were introverted and quiet, is that it basically? Because normally children, when they don't understand someone else because they're quiet, for example, and that's a reason to pick on them or to prod them or whatever, eh? Or jealousy plays the biggest part because you were in the movies. That's why, in the TV program, that's why I was asking, eh? So if
um,
jealousy played a lot of it as well.
um, for for me, it was more like it's hard because I always try to show this exterior of confidence, even
Yeah.
though I felt the opposite inside. But um, I think it was maybe a mix of jealousy and just children being children, to be honest.
Yeah, because I
Um,
mean, let's be honest, children can be the cruelest, all because they don't know any better, unfortunately.
yeah.
Well, they should at that age. At that age that we're talking about, they should, but unfortunately,
Oh, yeah,
they
they
don't.
definitely know right from wrong, put it that way. But
Yeah,
they
yeah,
chose, and the thing is, when I look back, I was really angry as a child on in regards to how I was treated at school. But like I, I look back now and understand that their circumstances might have been difficult as well, and they
yeah,
were
yeah,
bad behaviours towards other people just purely because they were in a really poor situation themselves. and they probably
That's
didn't.
it's a very open-minded way to looking at it, because, but you are right. I mean, unfortunately, bullies 99% of the time are often being bullied themselves.
Yeah.
And then they've often got things going on at home, for example, that no one knows about. So doesn't make it any easier for you at the particular time. But looking back on it, that's a good way to look back on it, because it is exactly that. 99% of the time, it says more about them than it does us.
Yeah.
So you had a horrible, not a very nice time of it anyway at school, shall we say? But you had your acting career to fall back on, and to give you some joy at least when you were doing that. So what age did you leave school at? 15, 16?
I think it was just before I think I just turned 15 when I left school.
Yeah. And were you just continuing with acting, or did you have any like jobs or part-time jobs or anything like that?
I took a break from everything, I think, for a while, until I started college to study acting, and I was doing bits and bobs in terms of adverts and things like that in between. But I took a break from kind of just doing that, just to be a child, just to hang around.
Of course, you needed to do that, mate.
Make silly mistakes. And then I went into studying, and I studied acting when I had turned 16. Yeah, 16.
Right, and so then you went to college to do more acting, or more learning academic way?
More acting, yeah. So it was just to kind of develop more skills, more understanding of script breakdowns, techniques like Stanislavski and like Shakespeare and things like that, and understanding the difference between a mechanical actor and a realistic actor, and merge together, because in a theatre setting it's very mechanical, and in a film and TV world it's very realistic, and almost pulling out parts of you but only showing it in the eyes and the face, and not mechanically done. So yeah, learning all that was a great skill in itself.
So you're a young man learning his acting skills, and you were at college making friends. Were you out partying a lot alongside the acting and the college work? Were you partying a lot?
Yeah. I was the richest I've ever been, and I was also the poorest I've ever been all at the same time. That I was developing into my adolescence. I think I really tried to source out escapism, and that was in the form of alcohol and recreational drugs at points, and really choosing that avenue to cover up any part of me that I didn't want to release to people. And I don't think my college friends actually knew that at that point in time, and they kind of seen it as, you're a very loud, obnoxious, attention-seeking pain in the arse.
And that at times would push people further away, so it wouldn't do you any benefits really, but that's just what you had become to survive. That's how you had survived over the years, was to keep people at distance so they can't hurt you really, or they can't know too much about you.
And that's like, it was almost I was shooting myself in the foot, but at the same time it was my only way of reaching out to ask for help in any shape, way, or form, kind of thing. And I lost a lot of friends in that period of time, actual true friends that actually were there to pick me up. And because I was filming a project called Halfmoon Investigations throughout college, and I'd done that for over a year, that I became bubbleized in the BBC world as a child as well. And I think that I was making an awful lot of money. No one was managing my money. No one was directing me in any way. I had obviously the producers on set and my agent and all that trying to encourage me to put my money aside and do things, but I was buying friends and buying bad things in my body, and I had just lost my way, essentially.
And that was you continuing to run away from whatever trauma you'd been through, or how you felt not quite like in the right, you know what I mean? You felt like you didn't belong when you were growing up, for example, although you couldn't quite place why. That was a continuation into your later teenage years. You running away from your problems by using alcohol or recreationally with drugs to hide you turned to acting so you could express yourself. But then when that wasn't quite enough as well, that's when the alcohol and the drugs maybe kicked in, and you used that to hide from the way you were feeling maybe as well. Is that an accurate enough? I don't know. That's just that's the way I see it.
Yeah, because like I said previously, I was chasing a high from the acting, so I was getting a response from performing. But when I wasn't performing, it became hard for me to still find a release, essentially.
Yeah.
And, I think that was when the alcohol. I remember one occasion I was in a club and I bought the whole table around. Like, and I mean, like an expense. It was bottles and bottles and bottles to the actual table. To the point that I lost all capability of communication, because I intoxicated myself so badly that I was actually communicating through squeezing hands to people. They were saying,
"Oh wow,
that's
dangerous."
And there would be occasions where I woke up in people's houses that I didn't even know where I was, whose house it was, or anything like that. And I would call an ambulance a lot on myself. Like, I'd go to the bathroom and I would call 999 and I'd ask the ambulance to come. And the ambulance service would always be like, there's nothing wrong with you apart from that you're drunk and you've been taking drugs. Like, and I was like, no, I need help. Like, and then, yeah, but you're wasting our time if you're not going to speak to us. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I need help. Like, and they were like, well, we don't know.
Were you trying to say to them, look, I'm suicidal type thing, or I need help with mental health, or
that? And I didn't know how to communicate that, like, because there been pivotal points in my just getting into my teenage years where I had thought it out so much, and I had been like, I know exactly what I'm going to do, I know where I'm going to do it, and I kind of like was scared that I was going to act on it because I'd thought so much. And I was like, I need to kind of ask for help, and I don't know how to ask for help. And then it wasn't until
it gets harder because the longer that you've kept that into yourself and you try to deal with it yourself. When you deal with trauma as a child, you deal with it in a child's head. You can only deal with that as it happens, like you do as an adult. But obviously, as a child, you don't know if you're not got anybody to speak to or turn to, then you don't know how to deal with it. So you do become more introverted, and you do deal with it, and you shut the world out bit by bit. But when you were coming in, you were drinking and taking drugs recreationally, that was leading to a point of like you realising that you were either going to be dead or you were at the point of a nervous breakdown or whatever, I would imagine, in your early 20s.
Yeah, so when I had hit 18, and this is why I'm so proud of Kerry and wee Sophie in their endeavours with dark devices, because it's hitting a lot of topics when I turned 18. And when I turned 18, there was a lot of things going around about Jimmy Savile, and it was on the news, and mental breakdown for me. The cracks were starting to form, and I was the persona that I had surrounded around myself to amplify and create this pretend kind of version of me was starting to fall apart, essentially. And I recall going to a family party, and I had completely broke, and I ended up in the police station, and I had reported things about my childhood that kind of hits nerves with me at some points. And I am a survivor of sexual abuse, and that's why I think that what Kerry is doing is so important, because I think to educate children and parents and in this day and age about online grooming and how accessible children are to people is, I can't even put it into words. Like, it is vitally important that people know that their children, that the children that they have, when you give them these devices, whether it be a mobile, an iPad, or anything like that, they're exposed to all these online social media platforms, to the point that I even said to my sister Sharon, she has a young girl, she has 3 girls, but the oldest one of them had just got a Snapchat, and it was linked to her Instagram, and I don't have Snapchat or anything, but Snapchat then gives you your location,
Right.
and it was then interlinked. So these men were following her on Instagram, and I'm talking about men, like 30-year-olds,
Yeah.
well, like following her on Instagram. Then we could easily go to her Snapchat and then know her location. So know what school she,
Oh, that's
what
far
house.
too dangerous, isn't it?
Uh,
Yeah.
and when Kerry, when I had seen this post for the part of Dean, I was like, I've never ever wanted to play a part that is involved in grooming or anything like that, just because I thought it'd be too triggering. And I was like, after a lot of work in myself for many years, I was like, I'm at a place where I'm capable of putting a performance in that will be of a great standard, and it won't compromise my mental health.
Yeah, that's
And
important.
yeah,
As long as you're comfortable with your mental health and you've worked on yourself, you've taken time out, you've been away off the scene for a few years, taking your time out to deal with your trauma. Yeah, and can I first of all say thank you very, very much for being so honest about being a survivor of sexual abuse, because that's one a massive, massive stigma that needs broken out there. And it's only by people like ourselves talking about any kind of abuse going through childhood, physical and mental in my case, sexual, whatever it is, parents splitting up is another adverse childhood experience that we don't talk about enough.
yeah,
And it's issues like these that affect us, people like us, for the whole of our lives, and affect us in so many different ways, life-threatening ways, mental health ways, communication ways, being friendships, bonds, all of that. It affects the whole our lives until we eventually are able to deal with that trauma. But unfortunately, that's not until some of us, in my case, I was 49 when I got myself out of addiction and sorted out my trauma and went over that and got on top of that side of it. And that's because nobody in my childhood talked about physical or mental abuse or sexual abuse, or even, I mean, it was like common knowledge. Maybe 4 out of 5 of my friends were probably going through the same as what I was anyway.
yeah,
So, you know what I mean? To complain about it to your friends, oh, my dad just done this or whatever, they was like, aye, so what? Well, that's why I've got a black eye, because my mum done that. So it was like, you sort of grow up thinking, with physical abuse anyway, and mental abuse, you think, well, that's just normal, because we're in the mind of a child and we're trying to deal with that as best as we know how. But it's a very, very, when you're going through any type of abuse, it's a very isolating feeling, because you feel like you can't talk to anybody about it, because you feel that everybody will blame you. It's your fault
yeah,
somehow, because that's how the abuser makes us feel. If you tell somebody this, then this is going to happen. It's going to be a hell a lot worse than what this is happening now. If you tell anybody this, you know what I mean? They use it to isolate us, the fear to isolate us and to carry on, unfortunately, their abuse or whatever it is they're trying to do, hide their own shame or whatever it is. But it's important that people like ourselves that have been through that and come out the other side, and we've dealt with our trauma as best as we can, and we can openly talk about it and maybe help children today that are going
yeah,
through similar situations, or people that have been through similar journeys to ourselves but have just not found that strength yet to be able to open up. So it's very important, for example, in the acting world, but to see someone as yourself being so honest and open about sexual abuse, about loneliness, about mental health, it's only going to help so many more people. So thank you very much, Robert, for being so honest on my podcast and mentioning that. It's really important.
oh, and that's and like I'm happy to do so, because it's like it's very courageous for yourself, myself indeed, and it's the same way Kerry and Sophie taking this challenge on, and I
Yes.
think that um, my what I would like to say to a lot of men out there, particularly, is it does not define you and it does not demasculate you in any way, receiving
No.
any shape, way, or form. And that is what I would like to put out there in regards from a man's perspective.
Yes.
And I think when it comes into then child, abuse that I think that children, like you said, are so commonly made to believe that it is their fault and they're
Yes.
responsible, and they feel that someone's going to get into trouble or the parents are going to get hurt or something like that, and that is not the case.
That's
And
not the case, but it's the way you're made to feel.
yeah, and I think that with Kerry writing this Dark Devices film is going to highlight all these things about addiction, mental health, grooming online, and ways to avoid it and capitalise on that point. There is just ways
Yeah.
to read the signs, avoid it, take the right procedures in place to make sure that you know what your children is doing online at all times, and enlighten them slightly and show. Because if you don't, unfortunately, these are the things that could occur. And
unfortunately, the world's a horrible place at times, and there's horrible people in it. But in any way that we can raise awareness, whether it's talking like this or be Dark Devices, a movie, then we should always do that. And the way I feel about it, when I got myself into recovery 18 months ago, maybe not back then, I wasn't thinking about doing things like this, but it's almost my responsibility to show other people, look, we do get through adverse childhood experiences. We do get through other traumatic events like addiction or grief, the death, the loss of a loved one. And it's about reaching back and saying, it's about how much effort you want to put in. If you want to recover, you can recover. If you want to get through trauma, you can get through trauma. And it's important that there's people like us that do that. So, aye, thank you very much. But so where did you come across Dark Devices then when you first seen it?
So obviously I don't have Facebook, but I seen an ad that was sent to me via Facebook, and then I created this like little Facebook thing. I don't even know how it works.
Yeah.
Facebook. So,
oh, you need to get up to date now, Robert. Come on.
I know. And I had basically reached out to Kerry. I sent her an email, and she had sent me over a part of the script, and I had sent in a submission, like most actors do. And in this COVID, it's mainly self-tapes. So she'd get back to me, and we had a long chat on the phone.
She likes to blather, does our Kerry, doesn't she?
And we were gabbing for a good bit, and she was just giving me more background in Dean. And she told me I've not made a final decision yet, but I'm going to look over the rest of the videos, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Then she'd informed me, obviously, I got the role a few days later, and I was overwhelmed, and then I finally got to build a better relationship with Kerry, and she then enlightened me about Sophie, her daughter, for anyone who's listening, who is a young actress herself, and she's only 10, and she'd obviously said about, I think it was last year, she'd said to her mum, is there any way I can become an actor? Like, is there like a way that I can do these things that all these other people are doing on TV and things like that? And Kerry had just point blank said, well, if you work hard, you believe you can, then there's nothing basically stopping you. Like,
so true, isn't it?
And you need more parents like that as well, encouraging, especially when people come from Kerry's situation and like my background and yourself, like from a council estate, like we kind of do feel, and obviously Kerry's a parent, she's looking after another child, she had to give up her job, like she's a woman, I swear to God, like give up her job and look after her autistic child while looking after her other, and she just wanted to push her daughter into this world that she dreamed to be in, and lo and behold, she helped her and aided her in every way she possibly could, and within a couple of weeks or something, she had basically got her first job, and that was an advert with Shelter, and from then on she's got work after that. She's done a wee short film that had been submitted for awards, and she's a phenomenal wee actress, she really is.
Oh, she isn't half,
Aye, and she had said,
I came across Sophie and Kerry, her mother, before it obviously, but I came across Sophie about a year and a bit ago. She'd sent in a video, she'd saved up her pocket money, she gave her pocket money one week, £10, and my friend was raising funds to buy sleeping bags for the homeless in Scotland, all different cities in Scotland. And Sophie, what a wee sweetheart, she sent in her £10 pocket money to my friend to help buy a sleeping bag for a homeless person. And that was at 9 years old, and I'm like, and she'd done a little video along with it. saying, if in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And honestly, I had a lump in my throat at the time. I can still remember back a year ago, I'm like, wow, a wee girl like that. I'm like, reminded me of my daughter, like a long time ago, right now. My daughter's 16 now, but yeah, she's a lovely kid, such a kind wee girl, But that says everything about Kerry as a mother, of course, as well.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes as well. And I said to Kerry on the phone, I was like, Sophie's somebody you want to look up to, even though she's 10. You want to look up to her because she said to her mum as well. She goes, while you're making this film, and like Kerry's done so much research in terms of the predator hunters and things like that, and looking into obviously mental health, and obviously she has some personal kind of like personal views and experiences with certain factors within the film, so she can relate. But she has done all of her research when it comes to that, and then addiction and everything like that. And Sophie turned around and says, if I can give somebody a chance that doesn't have the opportunity or the ability to fund themselves into something like that, she wants to aid them in any way she can. And she says, if she ever then she wants to basically give people the ability to do it, and that welled me up slightly, because I was just like, from being 10 years old to coming out with words like that, to want to lift other people in your community, and that's exactly.
If only the rest of humanity was as easy and as kind as Sophie is at 10-year-old. Exactly. I mean, like when what I've said to Kerry in the background as well about what her and Sophie have done here. Because let's not forget, a lot of the cast are from the surrounding areas in Edinburgh, Wester Hales, and it's normal everyday folk from these communities that we grew up in housing estates in Edinburgh. So that in itself has given every ordinary day people hope. You touched on that at the beginning of the podcast. We all need a bit of hope in life, and that's what Sophie's message is, and that's clearly what Kerry's message is as well. It's about. That's my message as well in recovery, is to give people hope that, you might be down there 1 minute, but if you put in a bit of work and through time, one day at a time, then you do recover, and there is other things that you can go on to achieve and to enjoy in life. It's never too late, is what I keep saying to people. But it's important that we have people like Kerry spreading, like, to give people hope. But like when she contacted me and said, because I'd been in recovery 18 months, and Dawn Blades, who's also in recovery, and Michelle Whiteford, who's also in recovery, she asked the three of us to become an extra on Dark Devices, and that's such an amazing thing to do. Like, none of the three of us have ever thought about being in a TV program or a movie or whatever, and it's just given us such a lift in our recovery. We're already doing well, but sometimes you just need that wee boost to keep you going and to think, all right, this is working properly. I'm really making a difference in not only my life, but people around me. And that's what that one act of kindness done for three people. And then in turn, my daughter Amy is now going to be in the movie. So it's really a really kind thing to do. But that wasn't enough for our Kerry. I mean, she's getting so many people involved in the local area and in Scotland in general. So.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I just think it's admirable that she's getting all of these people from her community to really get stuck in and help out and lift people and give them something to look forward to, and show them that they can achieve anything. We can all go into something and be whoever we want, and do whatever we want, and nothing is going to stop us. It's like there's a limitless end of so many things that we can endeavour in.
And this is only the beginning. I mean, with the Dark Devices movie, this is only Dark Devices 1. Wait about 10 years' time, we're on Dark Devices number 10. You know what I mean? So how can the general public help? How can they help with this movie going forward?
So
how can they get involved?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page, which is Dark Devices, and we also have an Instagram and I believe a TikTok. Do we have a Twitter? Let's wait for Kerry to respond to that.
Yes, Kerry will put it up in the comments.
But you can get us all on that via Dark Devices, and we have currently a campaign going at the moment, and it is just to kind of raise funds so we can get the equipment and everything we need to actually fund and budget the film. Now, Kerry's mission, and I am 100% backing this mission, is once we've got all the funds available to actually pay all the crew and get the money so we can get decent equipment, then we then sell it on. And everything we make after that will go to charities. And we're in discussion with certain charities at the moment, and obviously that will be revealed later on. But this Just Giving kind of campaign that we're doing at the moment is the start of our campaign. We will then go into other campaigns, and then you can buy lovely little tokens as well. But if anyone can go onto these like social media platforms and share, even just give £1. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, how much money do we waste on a daily basis? Like, I go to Starbucks all the time, spend a £5, and it's like, so £1 is nothing really. And if all the people on the page pay £1, that is a little bit more towards this mission, this goal, to help Sophie, to help Kerry create a bigger and better world and educate people regarding this film, and with all of the predator kind of side of it. Like, we really want to really highlight that, and we want to educate parents. We want to encourage people to actually take more notice of what their children are doing on a daily basis, and then put in measures that are going to help prevent any of these things, because if sadly they do occur, we want to then have things implicated where children can seek help as soon as possible, so it's not bleeding out of their adolescence into their adulthood. Because that is when sometimes some things can't be rectified, but if things can be sorted at the get-go, when they've realised what's happened, and get them the right counselling and the right help that they need from charities, and they have the money to back it, then that will make a lot of difference.
We only want to make the internet a safer place for our children at the end of the day.
We do,
because unfortunately in the world we live in, there is horrible people out there, and they'll use any means necessary. So yeah, online especially is a big way that needs tightened up in a lot of ways. So anything that can raise awareness of these issues, even though how dark some of them are, we need to talk about these issues, and we need to break the stigma over them to make it less of a stigma for our children growing up. If they're used to talking about mental health or addiction or online dangers or etc., growing up, if they're hearing these words in a regular, well, you know what I mean, in school at the very least, or around their family members, then it's not so much a stigma in their lives, and they can grow up and talk about it and turn to their peers and their friends, and that's the hope anyway. So that's what the film's there, is to raise awareness of all these different issues. And it doesn't just help, like you say, Sophie and Kerry and even yourself or myself. It helps so many people in the local area, and then that in turn will help so many more people in turn. And it's about spreading that hope that it doesn't matter what age you are, and it's never too late. If you want, you can reach out to anybody and get that help and support if needed. I'm just going to go on to the next question. So apart from the GoFundMe, we're looking for, I believe you're looking for businesses as well to maybe they would sponsor the film, and they would get their name mentioned in the credits and things like that.
So they can donate money. I believe it is £500 or £250, depending on what they're wanting out of it, and they can get a credit credited to them on IMDb. And it's also free advertisement for them, so it's a bonus.
Exactly.
So they're also helping a great cause. The money's going back to charity, and they're getting advertisement. So it's a win-win for everyone all round.
Yeah, win-win for everybody, mate.
And I think if businesses can just kind of get involved and really support us in what we're trying to do, and raise awareness, because it's a really crucial topic that we're talking about. And I think that in this
talking about our children here at the end of the day.
Exactly, we're wanting to protect people, we want to educate people, and I think that they need to see it from that point of view, not to be scared and not to be kind of like that's a topic I'm not comfortable with. Yeah, that's the whole point. We don't want to make it taboo.
That is the whole point.
We want to actually throw it out there, put it in people's faces, so everyone's enlightened and know. So then
we need to desensitize. We need to desensitize these issues.
Yeah. So if any company out there, and there are some lovely companies that have already aided Kerry in some of our endeavours with certain locations and things like that, that will be mentioned and things like that, and many thanks will be given to them. So we just want any company whatsoever that is able to help will be much appreciated, and it will just help us make a better world.
Yeah, make a better world, make a better movie, so it's win-win for everybody. So is there anything else that I've maybe not covered before we finish up at all, Robert? Because that's just fluent, that hour, so I'm sure we could talk about lots more.
I believe that, yeah, I think Sophie did want me to mention, I think it was a thanks to, what is her name? I've got notes here. Louise from Shape History, because obviously Louise believed in Sophie, and she would like to just give a thanks to her as well. Just purely because if it wasn't for Louise to actually help her from Shape History and believe in her, she wouldn't be able to do and create the things that she's planning to do in the future and what she's already doing. So a nice wee thank to.
And it's only just begun for Sophie. It's an absolutely inspiring story, and she's only 10-year-old. I mean, the possibilities are unlimited. But could I just say thank you very much again, Robert, for coming on my podcast tonight. And it's the first one I've done ever in my life with an actor, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And thank you once again for being so honest and open about your life story as well. And I'm sure we'll get to meet each other, but we will when we're acting next year. But hopefully before that, before then we'll get to meet each other. I'm still waiting to meet Kerry as well, and I've known her for a 1.5 years, so you never know. But so thank you very much once again, Robert, and we'll catch up very soon, my friend. So all that's left for me to say is it's okay not to be okay, but more than that, speak out, don't check out.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you. Bye-bye.